Hi guys. I thought I'd make a video, and yes, I'm recording a whole bunch of videos at one time because I'm free at this time. But this video, I wanted to make it more about what it's like being an African American woman, and not just an African American woman, but a light-skinned African American woman living in America. Um, and yeah, just to talk about that a little bit. Um, I think the first thing that I can say is that I do get um, asked all the time um, from people who don't know me and first lay eyes on me. They say, and it just depends on the person. Sometimes it's stated in a rude way. Sometimes it's stated in I would consider a more like respectful way. Is are you mixed with something? Which to me, I don't really like that. I feel like you should be able to ask somebody, you know, are you of like two different races? Are you multiracial? That seems more respectful. When I hear "Are you mixed?" the way it's also the tone that people say it in. It's very weird how people say that, and I know a lot of times when people have asked me, it's made me feel like I'm some like mixed breed of a dog. The way that they say it, it's like, oh, you must be mixed with something weird. And I say that too because I'll go up to people, even if I think that they look like they are multiracial or racially ambiguous. A lot of people like to say that. I never go up to them and say, like, oh, what are you mixed with? Because I feel like I've been on the other side of it. And it, I feel like people don't, if you don't hear it that often, then you don't really understand how that can kind of sound sometimes. But anyway, for those wondering, I'm not mixed with anything. Both of my parents are black. I'm just light skinned. So that in itself is a topic like because I get all the time like, oh, like I remember one time I walked in a Cinnabon of all places. I just wanted to get a Cinnabon cinnamon roll. I was just walking in to get my Cinnabon, and black guy at the register, a little younger than me at that time. He's probably like late teens, early 20s. And instead of greeting me and saying, hello, welcome to Cinnabon, how can I help you? It was, oh, I know you gotta be mixed with something with something. And I'm sorry I'm laughing because of my own cold. Heaving, I should say. Um, but immediately I told him, no. I was just like, no, I'm not. And I said, can I please order my food? I'm just like, who says that to someone just right off the bat for a conversation starter? It was weird. I let it go because he was, like I said, he was kind of young, but a lot of people don't want to hear me say that. I don't know. I'm just like, maybe you should expand your mind that Black people, we come in all shades. I think people often forget that, not just other races, but within the Black community. A lot of times when people see someone with light skin, they automatically think that they must be, well, within the Black community, they automatically think they must be mixed with some other race. And that's not always the case. And funny thing is, I have a cousin who is actually lighter than me. So like I said, we come in all different shades. So I it blows my mind. I think it blows my mind, especially for the Black community, to a lot of Black people to think that if you are light skinned, you are automatically a mixed race or multiracial. Um, and growing up, I would say I wasn't really bothered until Middle school was when I could definitely tell um, people within the Black community and outside of the Black communities would treat me differently. Um, there were, you know, always going to be people who, no matter what you tell them, they're not going to believe you. But I'm just like, well, okay, I can't, I'm not going to stand here and convince you of one thing or the other. But, in, you know, middle school honestly was not as bad. I would say I had more of a rough experience once I got to high school. Because, certain peers made comments about my looks. Um, some of it I took as, possible jealousy. Some of it I think was just, again, them not wanting to believe that I had two Black parents and just making up something in their own mind. But what got to me, I specifically remember I had several dance coaches in high school, and the first coach I loved her. She was awesome. Second coach was just a handful, older lady, and she was of a darker complexion. She was heavier set. So, um you know, I feel like on the dance team, I was one of maybe two. There's one other girl that was, lighter. Not we're not the same complexion as me, but they would consider her light skinned compared to the rest of the group. But I stuck out like a sore thumb, apparently, and this dance coach made it so I wouldn't forget that. I remember every time we had dance practice, she would target me and always say things to distance myself from the rest of the group. Like she would make comments of me always looking like she would describe me because this is like a hip hop dance group. And she would always make comments like, "Oh, you're dancing like a flower. You're dancing like a flower." And I was like, okay. I was like, is that always a bad thing? I was like, what? And she would purposely create like a circle of doom. So like if you were not dancing how she wanted you to dance, you would have to get out of the group with everyone else and go and dance like in a corner by yourself. Um yeah, this was high school, y'all. And I was just like, this lady is tripping. I don't know what her problem is. But, that I felt like I was targeted. And in those instances, sometimes I felt like those are the times where I just wanted to blend in. I didn't want to be seen as other just because I was light skinned. But, you can't change your skin color. And a lot of people, like, they see you in all cultures, light skin has its advantages. Of course, I know that. I know I have privilege from that standpoint, but I did not have it easy either. Two things can be true at one time. And there are certain situations where I just wanted to be treated like everyone else. And because of my skin color, unfortunately, I stood out in certain circumstances, and some people would not let me forget that. And they did it in ways where it was very, I don't want to say abusive, but it didn't help me mentally. I'll put it that way. Um, you know, along with like me being of a lighter complexion, the way I talked, like grouping that together, I would always have people, and again, I'm just speaking from the Black community right now, people saying, like, oh, you sound like a white person. You must be mixed. You must have a white parent, whatever. And I'm like, no, I don't. This is just the way I talk, how I've always talked. Don't know what you, I can't, I'm not changing the way I talk just because you say that. And again, a lot of these comments were from other Black women. I say women now because I'm a woman. I mean, at that time, we were teenage girls, and they would say stuff to me like that. And, I'd let it roll off. Like, I was never trying to say rude things back to people. But honestly, now that I'm grown, I do feel like mentally I might have been in a better place now if I would have, clapped back at a lot of them. Um, because I don't want to say I regret it, but there were so many instances where I feel like I just let people kind of walk over me um, when it came to them making comments. And a lot of those comments were around my complexion. And I was just like, I didn't deserve that, you know? So, because I'm the type of person, I feel like I'm pretty down to earth. I don't confront people on anything. If anything, I'll try to befriend people. And if they don't want to be friends, then I'm just like, all right, well, I tried type of situation. So that's the only thing I could make out is that people who the girls that made comments to me like that, they were jealous, envious of whatever. I don't know. I will tell you, I'm a nerd now, and I was a nerd all through school. I think the only time I felt like I was like part of the popular crowd was in elementary school. After elementary school, like I went from being like somewhat popular, like social wise, to being just the nerd. I was on like the AL team in middle school. I was in the academy in high school. So I went like I was nerdy. I didn't really date. I think I had like one boyfriend, barely a little time in high school, not a lot of time at all. So that's the part I don't understand. I was just like, what are y'all being envious of or jealous of? I don't have anything that you don't already have. So yeah, that was interesting. Um I'm trying to think what else. Um I will say let's talk like dating wise with some men, not all men, but some men, I do feel like again, it was borderline fetishy from some men because they would always make comments about like, "Oh, well, you gotta be mixed with something. You can't be all black." And I was like, "Why can't I? Why can't I be all black?" Like, it was just like they can't equate. I don't know, people, those men, I guess they're boxing in their mind, and it's not just men, it's black women too in the black community. They box in to their mind that light skin can only mean in the black community, it can only mean that you are mixed with something. And if you want to consider myself as mixed like several generations back, be my guest. We've done our family tree back several generations and mm, nothing. No white people. I will share this on my dad's side. We found out that we had a Jewish um, slave master on that side of the family. And some slave masters, or I'm sorry, yeah, owners, they did get down with some of the slaves, back then in the day. So, but that's way like so many generations away. So, and it's still not confirmed. Like, there's nothing confirmed. We can only go back so far, unfortunately. But I need people to open their minds on like how people can look a certain way in all different races, and you'd be surprised. So anyway, but yeah, the dating scene, like sometimes guys would be like, I feel like they were only interested in talking to me because I was racially ambiguous or whatnot, and I was just like, yeah, that's weird, a little weird. um but I do find myself sometimes in that situation where, um, like, there's been like the color. I've watched both the colorism specials. I think that was that done by Oprah. I can't remember. I think it was. And it was from the perspective of like darker skinned women, and then you have perspectives from light skinned women. And um, again, I acknowledge my like privilege as being of a lighter skin tone. Um, However, I do feel sometimes it's like the space to be able to um, complain about things or vent about things, being a Black woman, oftentimes are not taken as seriously because I am a light skinned woman. Um, and, you know, it's that kind of sometimes you can get into an argument with someone who thinks their their struggles have been so much more than yours. And so that's the hard place. And I don't think it's just for me. I mean, I think that's just people in general. Everyone thinks that their struggle is harder than someone else's. And um, it collectively, we could say collectively, like Black American struggles are collectively harder than white Americans. They stop like historically. Um, but when you get to the individual, that's when it gets harder to say, like, oh, well, my struggles were so much more than your struggles because X, Y, and Z. So I think sometimes being a light skinned Black woman, I'm already a minority in the fact that I'm Black. And then I'm also female. And so I'm dealing with those things, but yet because I'm light skinned, I have to say that I'm privileged. But then where's the space for me to say as a light skinned Black female that, I've got issues too. Sometimes it can be hard to do. Um and there's a creator, I can't remember their name, but I always give people a chance. And Black creator, Black, I don't know, they identify as they or her, I can't remember. But anyway, I tried to watch, and she's of darker complexion, and I tried to watch one of her videos, and all of a sudden I felt immediately attacked. And I was like, ooh, why do I feel this way? And I was just like, huh, okay. And then I went on their page and I tried to watch another video. And again, I felt a little bit of an attack. And I noticed that it was a pattern of her, any topic that she was talking about, it was like an attack on light skin in light skinned Black women or light skinned Black men, light skinned people within the Black community. And all the topics she was just kind of talking about, I felt like it was almost, from my opinion, it was trying to erase us from being a part of the Black community. And some of the things that were said, and not just in this creator, but other creators too, they do light skinned Black women a disservice when they post videos of Zendaya. I'm trying to think of other creators, not creators, actors and actresses. Um, but they post. Of course, I can think of Zendaya because she's in everything. But they post these actors and actresses that are biracial, and they say this is what Hollywood shows us is, as is represented of Black people, and it's not. And I'm like, wait a minute. For some of us Black people, they do actually look like us. But it's because in a lot of people's minds, they see any light skinned person within that has any type of connection to the Black community. They're automatically of two races, and that's not always the case. So sometimes when I see someone saying, like, Zendaya is not representative of the Black community, I'm like, well, do I look just like Zendaya? No. But as far as like skin tone wise, I similar skin tone, right? So in that sense, I could say that for me, she represents me a little bit. Um, but like for example, for my sister, we look nothing alike. My sister favors my dad, I favor my mom. My sister would be more represented, I would say, by if we're talking like real people, she would be represented by I can't remember her name for the life of me, but she was a soap opera star at first. I believe she was in One Life to Live, but then she went on to play in Hamilton. She was who was there? Eliza, Peggy, Angelica. She played Angelica in Hamilton, the Broadway play. So my sister would be represented by her. They could be like twins almost. Um, and then to give you like an example of a Disney character, Tiana would be representative of my sister, like complexion wise, right? So that's why I said there's a range of colors within the Black community. Whenever me and my sister are hanging out, perfect example, we were in New Orleans traveling, and this was years ago, and we were on a cemetery tour. And there was this other lady and her friend, they were friends, and they turned around to us and they were just like, "Oh, are you guys on a friendship trip too?" And me and my sister just looked at one another and we're like, "No." We're like, "We're on a sister trip." And you could just see the wheels like turning in their heads, like trying to put it together, and they couldn't. Now, these were two white ladies, and you know, I would expect it from them um, to not fully understand, but even from again our Black community, like I don't know why, but we haven't made the full connection that we can be in all ranges of color. So that's an interesting experience. Like I said, I look more like my mom's side of the family. My sister looks more like my dad's side of the family, which is really cool. When you see us with like our cousins from each side, it's really cool to see how genetics works that way. Um, but um, but yeah, I would say that people often think that, because you look a certain way, that you do have it easy in life. And I hope that by now, if you're of a certain age by now, that you would realize that looks can, they're one thing, but they're not everything. And so just because somebody looks a certain way, that does not define how their whole life is. Um, and I speak for other light skinned Black women that are not mixed, but have two Black parents. Um, we exist. And I'm not saying this to, um, you know, be mean to any other person out there. It's just that I feel like sometimes we and sometimes I do think it's intentional, depending on the creator. We are pushed out of the commentary almost to the point. I will say, I almost feel in certain Black spaces erased because of the fact that so many people have seen, multiracial um, actors and actresses that they just assume now that, oh, again, if you're light skinned, you must be mixed with something. You can't possibly be a fully Black person. Um, and I may do a part two because I feel like I'm only like touching certain things in this video. I know this has probably affected me in other ways, like work wise, as well, but nothing's coming to me like immediately right now. But I do think it's important for people to acknowledge that, you know, um, that we are here. We should be included in the conversation. Um, Last thoughts. I'll put I remember the song perfect example of where I feel like we were all of a sudden just pushed out of what could have been a very positive thing. And there was a lot. I remember when the song came out, there was a lot of is a discourse or discussion around it when Beyonce came out with Brown Skin Girls. Um, instead of that being a really positive moment where all black and brown women could come together to appreciate a song celebrating being of color and being a woman or a girl, it turned into this discussion again of, well, this song was only meant for certain brown people, but not all brown people. What? Are we really going there to the point where we have to have songs called what? Are we going to get to the point where we have where we have songs called Leche Girls, Caramel Girls, Godiva Girls, what else? Chestnut Girl, Cashew Girls. I'm missing some other ones. Walnut Girl. On. But you see my point. It's just like what we can't have one song that just, you know, celebrates brown skin for women of color. I've reached my limit. Coughing again. But anyway, I hope that this, I'm wrapping up for real this time. I hope that this video can reach those other light skinned Black women who often might be mistaken as another race. Um, know that you also deserve space within the Black community. It's okay to be yourself. And um, last thing, other often I get asked if I'm like Filipino is what I get the most from people who don't like strangers that don't know me. And then often people try to talk to me in Spanish and I'm like un poquito español. So, yeah, but anyway. All right, thank you for watching. Bye.